I get so unbelievably, ridiculously angry at people who stupidly state, well, we care about people, and that's why I guess we care. Isn't that the intimation that they care more about people than you do, which is why they expect you to pay higher taxes for programs where barely a fraction of that money actually goes to the people that they claim that they're creating the programs for? Over and over again. For him to sit here and say, oh, well, Fidel Castro created literacy programs, and he defends it? He defends this communist murderer again last night in his town hall? Oh, so Fidel had literacy programs. Yeah, he did. And it's so unbelievably helpful for all those people to be able to read and write before they were shot in the head in a firing squad. It's so helpful for those people who are able to read and write while they are languishing away in arbitrary detentions for years. How nice. I guess that washes away all of the blood. I guess it washes away all of the dead bodies, everyone that was murdered, everyone that has been detained, just so that they could make the reality of their communist utopia, which means Latin for nothing, a reality. It's a joke. That is one of the biggest lies ever told in politics, is that somehow government states like socialism and communism, which socialism is a baby step towards communism. I don't care about your stupid nuance in that particular aspect of it. What you're talking about is evil. Socialism is evil. Communism is evil. It's evil to advocate for it. End of story. These people like to fashion themselves as gods on earth, and even God gives free will. They don't. So it's all insane. I really hope that this comes up. Really hope that this comes up in the debate. And it could be really kind of actually nasty for Sanders. And honestly, I hope that people actually attack him rhetorically and not constantly go after the shiny new toy on stage, Michael Bloomberg. Elizabeth Warren needs to grow some cojones, and she needs to go after Bernie Sanders. I get it. She's angling for the VP ticket, but come on. My book, Race Canceled, How Outrage is Destroying Lives, Ending Debate, and Endangering Democracy is out today, ladies and gentlemen. And I hope that you will go and purchase this book. I get into everything from social justice warriorism in the church. I look at how it is a lie that one cannot be a person of faith and also you can't vote for Trump because you're a person of faith. That whole lie that was first pushed by the Crystal Cons and then now repeated by people like Pete Buttigieg. So all of that plus the death of nuance, the death of redemption, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this here coming up at the bottom of the hour as well, because it's an important book, and honestly, people were scared of it. They were scared of this book, and I actually had a conversation with someone who said that, well, it's not very shocking to discuss the issue of grace. That when you're talking about grace and when you're talking about forgiveness, that's not a very shocking thing. It should be. You should probably do something more sensational. And at that point, I proved completely the entire premise of my book by losing my mind on said individual about the concept of grace, because I thought, you don't think grace is controversial? I mean, have you heard of the story of Jesus? Because, I don't know, it just seemed to me like all the disciples thought he was going to come bringing a sword of fire and he was going to just wipe out everybody who was bad. And when he humbled him, when he went through the humbling experience that would destroy anyone else, and took on the sins of the world and paid them so that through the mistake of one man, so would everyone be redeemed by the sacrifice of one man, and went through all of that. The disciples were scared and they thought, oh my gosh, this is what he's doing, because it's the hardest thing to do. It is the absolute hardest thing to do. And the reason why grace is dead in discourse and the reason why we deny people a redemptive path is because we're too egotistical. We are too self-interested and too invested in destroying the other person. It's not about politics and persuasion for people. It's about destruction. They don't understand that the art of persuasion and being successful at that it's not only a great skill, but it's also the greatest victory. Because people don't care. And you know what? Even if someone disagrees with you, and this is what the left also doesn't understand, It doesn't mean that you have to go light a college campus on fire. It doesn't mean that you have to go and bust up people's storefronts. It doesn't mean you have to do any of those things. You could just continue on with your life thinking differently and realizing that coexisting with diverse thought is okay. And I also get into this how socialism is not virtuous and is unbiblical. I my son in one of his classes one time, this was at a school in Texas. He immediately texted me and was telling me that his teacher was arguing that Jesus was a socialist, which I think is the most unchristian thing that could be stated. It is unchristian to have that view. I'll say it to your face because it is, and it needs to be said. The idea that you can absolve yourself of stewardship and that you're too good for edification of the spirit and you can offload the poor, those in need, those who are troubled onto the big bloated government that can't do anything expeditiously, that's somehow merciful is evil. It is an evil idea. It's lazy, and we need to acknowledge it. It's selfish. Selfishness, I believe, really ultimately is the root of all evil.
She told us during the debate that she got fired because she was visibly pregnant. But then when she was telling the same story back in 2007, it was she was just didn't work out. She didn't have certain courses. This woman lies about everything. I don't know if you could trust her if you asked her what time it was. Why does she this is pathological. It's like level pathological. And what's insane to me is that she told this story even after her campaign had been hit for lying about it. Because she kept lying about it over and over again. People were making fun of her. And then she does it again at the last debate. This is just bonkers. This woman has lied about everything. One of my favorites was when she made up the story about, well, I was the first breastfeeding mother to take the New Jersey bar. And then the lady who is like the head of New Jersey Bar Association says, yeah, that we don't track that. It's not like a thing. That didn't happen. She just lies about everything. I can't trust people like that, right? Just why would you make up something? She wants to be interesting and she wants to, and you really ultimately, she is a creation of the left. Any progressive that's mad at her, y'all created her. You insisted that and it's very Nietzsche. The people who suffer the most are the ones who are the most exalted in progressive ideology. The more you suffer for all of these different identity politics, then the more you are worthy. And that's ultimately that mindset, that ideology that created her. And that's why she does this stuff. It's all of these the whole thing with identity politics and the stuff that she constantly feels like she has to traffic in, all of these, invisible, some of them invisible or unearned, whatever attributes. This is she feels like she has to add these onto her resume because that's the only way she feels as though she can compete in this. It's Frankenstein's monster. And it is a progressive ideology because it determines that these individuals who are constantly creating these identity politic boxes for them to use as marketing tools almost. But it is like I said, it's very Nietzsche. And that's what she traffics in. That's what she does. She's just this white bread woman who has an ordinary background. So she concocted some crazy stories so she could get ahead at Harvard. She made up a story about racism in her own family and actually just disparaged her grandparents. Well, no, they didn't. Meemaw and Pawpaw, they didn't like the fact that my mother was a Native American. And they did not look with happy eyes on the union of my parents. She told this crazy story, made her grandparents out to be these like giant racist bigots. And her mother wasn't even Native American. No, the closest that her family came. And remember, she did that DNA test and it came back and she's like whiter than people in Sweden. When the when she did that test and looked into her genealogy, and there were also Cherokee genealogists looking too. The closest that she ever got to Native Americans was when her ancestors were working for Jackson's militias, rounding them up. So, for greater insight onto this, let's go to our friend Jim DeMint, Senator Jim DeMint, who was the senator there. For y'all remember Jim DeMint from the beautiful state of South Carolina. He's also the chairman of the Conservative Partnership Institute. And it's good to talk with you, sir. We're always pleased to have you.
Well, Dana, I'm back in South Carolina. I think you laid it out really well. This is the last stand for Joe Biden. His firewall is on fire in the sense that if this race went on another week or two before the election, it could turn out differently because most of the enthusiasm and energy is on the side of Bernie Sanders. And collectively, Bernie Sanders and Tom Steyer have more of the black vote than Bernie does. And that's a big part of the equation here in this primary. But now some of the latest polls are showing the lead closing. Right now, it still looks like Biden is going to win. But like you said, we're suspicious of polls. Mm-hmm. And with so many people in the race, this could be much more of a race. But your point is very important. It's not only essential that Biden win. If he doesn't win decisively, then I think it's really going to set him back for Super Tuesday.
Yes, and I know that Democrats are grappling with how do they stop Bernie Sanders, with whom they've always had a problem, but I guess they just took for granted his ability to kind of get some of these other folks involved and get some momentum behind him, because now, to me, it seems like it's a little too late. I mean, even if Biden does well in South Carolina, I mean, he still has a hill to climb, and I don't know what the statistics on that are going to look like.
Yeah, apparently Biden is running out of money. His media buys for Super Tuesday are much less than his opponents. And there are a lot of people now, Steyer and Bloomberg and others who are claiming to be on the moderate front. So his lane, as we call it, is a little bit crowded. And Bernie Sanders is the only one being honest about his socialism. And I think he's got a lot of energy behind him.
Yeah, I was shocked to even see that, honestly, that Sanders was even playing as well as he was in South Carolina. But this is the new, I guess, right?
It is, and I think if people think blacks all across the country are going to vote the same way this time,
right?
They're not, and their enthusiasm may be less for the Democrats because Trump has about 30% approval with black Americans, and I know he's going to campaign hard with black Americans because they're a lot better off under him. So this is the ground is shifting in this election, and but it's fun to watch on the ground here in South Carolina.
Yeah, I bet. What are Democrats in South Carolina? Because I keep seeing stories nationally of some candidates worried about if they have Sanders as the nominee, those down ticket are a little nervous. What is the party in South Carolina? What are they feeling like if they end up with a possibility of a Sanders nomination?
Well, I admit to not being real close to the Democratic Party here.
That's the correct answer. That is the right answer.
I've got a lot of friends in Columbia, and I've been asking them about this. And it seems that the Democratic Party, now with Jim Clyburn in, are trying to come in and prop up Biden just to hurt Sanders because of the reason you said. Congressmen all over the country are worried if he's at the top of the ticket that the Republicans could take the House back. And they may do that anyway. I think if we continue to have a good economy and things continue to move in a positive direction, we could have a shake-up election this year.
Yes, well, very much so. And that obviously, there's one way that the Democrat Party would like for it to go. I really think that we could take anybody on that they put forth, don't you?
I do. I don't know what kind of surprise they could do at the convention. My theory now is they'll go into the convention with Bernie having the most delegates, but not having the majority, and that they'll probably kind of cheat him out of it on the second round and maybe pull out a surprise. I'm not sure, but if Bloomberg is going to finance this with hundreds of millions of more dollars, they just might want to pick him and see if they can create a wave of their own. But I just don't think they can pull it off. I don't see anybody in their field that's going to get people enthusiastic.
No, and even Bloomberg, with all of his money, he's been sliding back in some of these Super Tuesday polls. He had a little bit of a bump there. I think it was only because people were interested in him with all of his ad buys, but that debate really did him in. One thing that I wanted to ask you, and I think that you have very unique insight into, because you were really, you were sort of the shepherd for the conservative uprising as everything sort of evolved into the Tea Party and the conservative caucus forming. I feel confident about 2020, but what actually genuinely worries me, I would even go so far as to say maybe even frightens me, is 2024. Because I don't think we're ever going to see another moderate or non-socialist candidate from the Democrats ever again. But how are Republicans going to be able to counter that? And do we have people on the bench to do it? Are we encouraging those young guns? What's your thought on that?
No, I think we've got a good bench. And the important thing, Dana, is that Trump has come out and he has pushed and implemented the conservative ideas that a lot of us have been talking about, and they're working. And the Republicans had been told by their consultants for years is, oh, you can't have border security. You really can't, talk about lower taxes, or you're going to lose elections. Trump has proved them all wrong. And so what I think is going to change in the future is Republicans should be bolder about the ideas that we really believe in. And I think you'll have people like Mike Pence and Nikki Haley, and there are a number of others in the House and the Senate right now that could carry this ball forward. There's never going to be another Donald Trump with his personality, but I hope Republicans have learned that they have to hit back when they're hit by the media, and they may all do it in different ways. But sitting there taking it and being a patsy like Republicans have been for so long, I think, again, Trump has proved them wrong, that you've got to fight back. And you can't allow them to roll over you. So I hope we've learned a lot from Trump, but I think it's going to be a whole new younger cast of characters that you're going to see in 2024.
Yes, I agree with that, and I like that you said that too, because when voters see their representative, their president, their senator attacked, it's like because they invested their authority in this individual with a vote, and they feel like they're being attacked. So they look at it as though this is an individual who's not just defending himself, he's defending us as well. Before I let you go, Senator, let me ask you, South Carolina better than anybody out there, having represented it for so long in the Senate. Give me, if you had to make your prediction right now as to how Saturday was going to go, what would your prediction be?
Well, I usually pick an underdog, and I would probably pick a surprise finish by Bernie Sanders.
Oh.
But that's my heart. I think my head tells me that Biden will probably pull it out by 5 or 6 points.
Wow. Not exactly decisive, but enough for a victory.
It's a very and I don't think 5 or 6 is going to get people excited, because they're going to see that he did not get a majority of the black vote, and that's going to really change the dynamic in Super Tuesday.
Yes, it will. Jim DeMint, Chairman, the Conservative Partnership Institute at CPINST on Twitter, and you can, of course, find him at Jim DeMint, former senator with South Carolina, knows it better than anybody. It's always a pleasure to have you. Thank you for your insight on this. We'll be watching it.